Hi, everyone. Welcome to the chiropractic universe with Dr. David Serio. Our mission here is to deep dive into everything chiropractic. All editions are in English and Spanish. Today, we have the great honor and privilege to interview Dr. Jack Bourla, president of Sherman College. Jack, thank you so much for taking your time today.
Thank you, David. You know what? It's actually my honor to be on the program with you.
Thank you. Jack's one of the nicest guys I know. He's become a great friend. I love what he's doing at my alma mater, Sherman College of Chiropractic. So, Jack, let's jump right into it. What is the vision for Sherman College as of this point?
The vision for Sherman College today has not really changed from that which was in 1973 when it was opened. It's always been to adjust the world for a better future. So we are not thinking about what happens necessarily in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where this is where we're located. We're thinking, what effect might chiropractic have on the world? And so that's our vision. Our vision is how do we take what we're now doing in Spartanburg, expand that globally? And we do it in a number of different ways. One, we do it, of course, with the students who we are blessed to have here on our campus. You know, we take them in as the first quarter students. In many cases, they're totally naive as to what chiropractic really is. We bring them gradually through 14 quarters of education, both academic and clinical, and then we unleash them into the world hoping that they're going to go far away. Not because we don't want them close by. I'm always sad at graduation. This is the honest truth. I'm sad at graduation because I'm seeing students with whom I've had a relationship for 3.5 years now go. But we want them to go because we want them to go ahead and take care of the communities that they are destined to take care of. So our vision has always been, how do we take chiropractic globally? You know, we've heard this every man, woman, and child should be checked and adjusted when necessary from birth, not just in Spartanburg, South Carolina, but the entire world. And we do that not because of neck pain, back pain, sciatica, amenorrhea, dysmenorrhea, gonorrhea, all the rheas. We do it because we know that when a person has a clear nerve system to function optimally, they have a better life quality. And so we're really into quality of life rather than pain reduction, although sometimes pain reduction is the result of our care. And that's awesome. But we're really looking at how do we take this person who presents on this particular day and allow them to have a better version of themselves. That's what we're out for.
That's why I've been supporting Sherman College since the day I stepped there. That's beautiful. And
And David, you actually represent that global vision because you came here in Spartanburg, and now where are you? You're in Latin America, and you're spreading chiropractic into Latin America, and that's exactly what Tom and Betty Gilardi had in mind when they founded Sherman College of Chiropractic.
thank you, Jack. And actually, a big announcement. We are actually opening our first practice in the US in South Carolina, Charleston area with Sophie Sherman, and I'm making
Awesome.
Sherman graduate next year. So that's amazing. And Jack, one of the things that I want people to understand when you say adjusting the world, and this is what I believe is one of the unique things about Sherman, is it's not only adjusting the vertebral subluxation, but adjusting their consciousness with the principles of chiropractic. So let's talk about that a little bit, Jack. How
Sure.
do you do that, and how is that incorporated into Sherman College?
So our curriculum is a chiropractic curriculum. Now we have biochemistry. We have lab diagnosis. We have all kinds of ologies, the microbiology, the dermatology, the gynecology, all that. But we look at that through the lens of a chiropractor. How is chiropractic relevant in those things? And if you think about it, if we truly are about life, well, biochemistry is all about life. And if you don't have the perspective of what you do may alter the biochemistry and improve it in an individual, then you've missed the point of being a chiropractor. We one of the things that, and I know people consider us a healthcare profession. I get that, but that's so limiting. In my viewpoint, it's limited. If we look at the principles of chiropractic, and chiropractic is based on 33 principles, and those of us who are in chiropractic know that we have 33 principles. If you look at them in great detail, you see that the word health is never once mentioned. Life is mentioned 11 times, living is mentioned 4 times in those 33 principles. So maybe we should start thinking about, rather than limit ourselves to health, which, by the way, how many other professions are in the healthcare business? Lots. Medicine, podiatry, dentistry, physical therapy, all these other professions deal with health. But what we really deal with is life's optimum expression, and health may be a really beneficial side effect of that life enhancement. So we look at everything on Sherman's campus as how is it chiropractic? And so what I do is when I'm not in meetings, I go sit in classrooms. And it's not because I want to intimidate. You know, this whole title of president is a misnomer. I consider myself the head servant at Sherman College. If I'm not out serving everybody else, why would I expect them to serve? So my job is to outserve everybody and set an example of what servant is. So if you don't have a servant's heart, you're not really going to be an effective leader, I believe. Some people may disagree, but I hope they might be wrong. But I sit in classrooms because I want to hear, even if it's biochemistry or lab diagnosis or any of these things that we really don't consider chiropractic. I want to hear the instructors bring it back to this is how chiropractic is relevant in these subject matters. That makes sense to you?
Beautiful, Jack. And anyone listening to this YouTube episode, I would highly encourage you to make it to Lyceum. I was at last year's Lyceum. I go to Lyceum as much as I can, and since Jack's there, I'm going every year. It is the chiropractic universe, the energy, the message, the camaraderie, the community. It's just it's you can't even put it into words. It'll really revive you and revolutionize your inspiration for the following year. So, Jack, tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about what is the vision of Lyceum, because my vision is to have every chiropractor I can coming and joining us at Lyceum. So, share a little bit of that vision of Lyceum. I want to know
Hey,
first, though, Jack, because I heard you once speak about this.
say it again?
What I want to know first, though, before you speak about the Sherman Lyceum,
Yes.
what was Lyceum started at? Give us a little
Sure.
how does Sherman fit into that?
Yeah. So Lyceum started out as an event that BJ Palmer wanted to showcase new developments in either thinking, technique, equipment. When the NCM came about, that was a revolutionary tool. So it was an opportunity for BJ Palmer and the Palmer School to showcase all things new in chiropractic and to reiterate those things that were important, like the philosophy. Interestingly enough, if you look at most chiropractic colleges who at one point in their history had lyceums, they now call them homecomings. But we don't. We call them lyceum. We still call it a lyceum. We are hanging on to the traditions of chiropractic, but we are allowing ourselves the opportunity to experience modernization in things relevant to chiropractic care, like technology. If you look at our school, we are one of the leaders, and we're the first chiropractic college to have a cone beam CT scan on campus. And as you probably know, a cone beam CT scan was developed by the dental industry to look at the jaw and the bones and the muscles and everything in the jaw, but it also captured the cervical spine. And so now we utilize that to look three-dimensionally, because one of the components of a vertebral subluxation is the misalignment. So we can actually three-dimensionally see what a misalignment looks like. And I'll tell you, personally, I've experienced a change in my care because of a cone beam CT scan. I have been under care for many, many years, probably longer than you've been alive. I hate to say, but nonetheless, and have, for years, I've always been adjusted as if my right atlas was lateral. So I've been adjusted for 45, 48 years that way. It turns out, because of the cone beam CT scan, that it's actually a left atlas that needs to be adjusted. So now when I get checked and adjusted, I get adjusted far less often because I'm getting the proper adjustment. Not that the prior chiropractic care was wrong, it just didn't have this impeccable analysis that a cone beam CT scan allows us to do. So the cone beam CT scan is great because it is an anatomical finding, but anatomical absent an effect on physiology is an anatomical finding. So we use thermography. We have thermography. So all of our students learn how to use thermography. I believe, we're the first chiropractic college to have a thermal imaging camera, which shows a beautiful depiction of the autonomic nervous system and what effect vertebral subluxation has on it. And then we do the standard testing to assure that we are really doing the right thing in terms of our analysis. So, we say adjust the world for a better future. I kind of wish we had said checking the world for a better future. Because as you know, not everybody who presents to a chiropractor needs to be adjusted at that particular moment. But when you have an analysis that is objective and reproducible and you can duplicate it amongst different people, then you have something you can say, okay, I'm certain that this particular person who sits before me requires an adjustment. And at Sherman College, we give you so many options on how you can adjust the vertebral subluxation because everybody's different. And so some people might we need an osseous adjustment. Some people might need an instrument adjustment. Some people might need more of a soft tissue approach. And so we allow our students to be exposed to these different options that they have. Put those options in their tool bag so that when they leave here, our campus, there are three components. They're competent, they're confident, and they're certain. And by the way, they're also safe. So we assure that our students, when they leave here, they're competent and safe. Because if they're not, we don't let them graduate.
And these are the kind of things that if you're not at Sherman Lyceum, you don't know these advances are happening in the profession. Besides that, the philosophy is something organic that's constantly evolving. And as we learn
Yes.
more about science and we go deeper into the philosophy, when you go to Sherman and you hear Bill Decken and you hear Jack, you hear Brian Dooley, you hear other people that are outside of Sherman College speaking on the philosophy and the advancements, that's
Right.
start to really gain perspective and depth in what we're doing as chiropractors. Jack,
Absolutely.
yesterday someone asked me an interesting question, and I want to ask you about this. How do you give more value to being a chiropractor that focuses on location analysis of vertebral subluxation, right? And so part of what I said that I want to hear your answer is, well, you have to really live this, and to live it you have to own it, and to own it you have to be at things like Sherman Lyceum, be
Yes.
surrounded by chiropractors living this, reading, and there's so many other pieces to that, but I want to hear your answer. So how would you
Certainly.
add value to being a chiropractor that focuses on the location analysis and correction?
Yeah. So unless you prepare the soil, you can't till it. And so what I mean by that is there's an education process that must take place that leads to empowerment for that person to make the decision, do I want or do I not want chiropractic care? So once you explain the importance of intelligence, so we know about universal intelligence, we also know about innate intelligence. And we know that innate intelligence is that universal intelligence that has been personified in our bodies to allow us to function optimally. So if people understand that the reason they're functioning is because there's a communication system between their brain, their body, and their body and their brain, and if that communication system is left open and unobstructed, they can pretty much handle most things that come to them, understanding that we all have limitations of matter, right? You and I have limitations of matter, and they're different. You and I, for example, will never be Michael Jordan, the basketball player, but he will never be as good looking as you and me. It's just a fact of life. So we have to look at the principles that direct a chiropractor to do what a chiropractor does, and that is to listen intently to the person who sits before them, honoring that person, and having a respect for that person who having chosen you or me as their chiropractor. If you don't have that reverence, then I don't know what you're doing, because with that reverence comes the servant heart, because you want to serve. So you have to listen, and they're going to tell you things, and some of the things are not chiropractic per se, but they're human. And so I tell our students, before you go wake up in the morning, put your chiropractic clothes on, you're a human being, so act that way. Actually care about someone else, care about the people that you come in contact with on a daily basis, and have a reverence for them and an honoring of them, because you never know. When I was in practice, David, I had my mindset was that the next person that I touched was the next Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King Jr. and perhaps an adjustment would unleash within them their potential to become the Mother Teresa or the Martin Luther King Jr. So everybody that I touched, I thought of as being the next life changer for the world. And I think when you have that attitude, you first of all, you take it very seriously. You take your job very seriously. So my analyses were very thorough every single time. I didn't cut corners, because if I did cut corners, what if I adjusted someone who didn't need to be adjusted and created a verbal subluxation? Now it's counter to what my task is. My task is to help the body to, I assist the body because I don't make the adjustment. And we know this, right? Innate intelligence does. So what we do when we make the adjustment is we entice innate to do her job, which is to correct the misaligned bone, restoring normal function, allowing that person to experience life as they were intended to.
Beautiful. And
Did
Jack,
I answer your question? I don't know. Okay.
and Jack, I think one thing that goes along with that, this is one of the things that impressed me when I came to visit Sherman with my wife and daughter.
Yeah.
Graciously received us. But one thing that goes along with that for me is the professionalism. And what I saw at Sherman this time really blew my mind because now there's a dress code. I love that because we are professionals. That means we need to act like professionals from the way we dress to being on time, to our
Yes.
energy, the way we speak, and that uplifts the profession. And I love that Sherman now has a dress code because when I was there, honestly, you would go to the school and you're like, are we professionals? You know, people would make fun of me, Jack, because I dressed up every day, got my clothes like dry clean stuff, and they used to make fun of me. I'm like, hey, we're doctors of chiropractic. Like that requires a level of professionalism that goes
Yeah.
above and beyond. So thank you.
100%. 100%. You know, when I was a student, I didn't go to Sherman. Had
Yeah.
I known about Sherman, I would have come here, but I didn't know about Sherman. But I had in my mind, we are professionals who are professing something, so we better look the part. And so as a student, even in first quarter, I wore a tie every day. And I was an older student. I went back when I was 39, but people thought I was part of the faculty because I was a bit older and I dressed like, like I thought we should all dress. Now you don't have to wear a tie. You can certainly present yourself, but make sure that the attire you have is consistent with your message. And your message should be, we could possibly change your life with a single chiropractic adjustment. I don't think you can do that in board shorts and sandals and tank top. I just don't think you have the credibility. So obviously, people's first impression, unfortunately, can sometimes be their final impression, which may be faulty. But I say if you're going to lead with a great first impression.
Oh,
And it's not to say that we're stuffy. We're not stuffy. You were here. You know what it's like. You were a student here. This is a community of like-minded people who truly believe that we have the possibility to change this planet. And so with that comes incredible professionalism. And this is not to downplay any other college because I don't know what happens on their campuses, but I would put our graduates against any other colleges for professionalism, for their ability to communicate, and for their ability to deliver chiropractic care, which starts with a very, very objective checkup.
beautiful. Beautiful. Jack, okay, a couple more questions.
Shoot.
See, for all those listening, is the biggest issue we have, the biggest problem, the biggest challenge we have moving forward for those of us that love the essence of chiropractic, want to see it thrive and stay alive? And
Yeah,
the second part of that question is, how can we be part of the solution to the problem?
great. Great questions, by the way. And you know what I hate in interviews when the person who's about to answer say, "Hey, that was a great question." If it wasn't a great question, anyway. Um, I think the biggest problem we have in chiropractic right now is that not enough people in chiropractic colleges actually know what chiropractic is and what it's not, what it does and what it does not. And all you have to do is study, at least to begin, Stevenson's Volume 14, the chiropractic textbook. If you were going to study medical physiology, you would probably go and buy a book about medical physiology, like probably Guyton or Harrison's. If you wanted to study Christianity, you would probably buy a Bible. If you want to study chiropractic, don't you think you should probably buy that book that says chiropractic textbook? At least I would. And then I would begin to read it. Now, what I know to be true is that the early chiropractors were really deep thinkers. I remember the first green book I ever bought was The Bigness of the Fellow Within. And in fact, here. In fact, it's on my desk because I'm reading things out of it. But when I read that as a student, David, I thought this BJ Palmer is the biggest whack job on the planet. Because how do you think about these insane things that he was? But as you read and you become more familiar and you begin to understand. I think one of the reasons that we think things are insane is because we don't understand them. But once now they might be, but you should still understand them. So, but volume 14 is extremely complicated. And as you know, volume 14 is divided into four texts: a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior texts. And BJ Palmer, in the very beginning of Stevenson's textbooks, offers a letter of approval saying, Stevie, he used to call him Stevie, what you've written here is now a handbook for chiropractic. Now, if the developer of chiropractic lends that type of approval to a book, you think you might want to pay attention to it. So understand the book was published in 1927, which means it was probably written a couple of years before that because it takes time to publish. And then B.J. Palmer died in 1961. So he had 34 years in which to go back and say, you know what, Stevie, you're full of something. Uh, but he didn't. He continued, and they refined some of the concepts for sure. But the textbook is where you want to start. And I think that the people who aren't certain about what chiropractic is and what it's not are those who are confusing not only themselves, but the public. So I think if you look at the chiropractic profession, there's factions, there's divisions within it, but those of us who understand what chiropractic is because it was written, right? It's defined for us. The developer of the profession defined chiropractic for us. If you don't like the definition, that's okay. Go do something else,
Agree.
but don't call it chiropractic.
Agree.
And so I think one of the problems that we have, David, is the confusion within the profession, which then gets perpetuated outside the profession, that they don't know what chiropractic is. And then you have people who say, oh, the green books, those are all historical concepts, they're archaic, and they're condemning them. And that's called condemnation without investigation because they never even read the green books. So until you have read it, you don't have the right to criticize it.
Great point, Jack. And also the new books by Claude Lassard that
Yes.
rewriting the chiropractic textbook are also great because they're modernized of the chiropractic textbook, which is so the first issue, Jack, the solution would be then if the person's in a chiropractic college that's not teaching chiropractic, buy someone a book, give them the chiropractic textbook, bring them to
Yes.
seminars.
All that. And by the way, I don't recommend taking Stevenson's textbook and reading it on your own. I don't recommend it. I recommend getting a group together and committing, like a book club, getting a group together, committing to read. So I'll tell you, when I was in practice in California, one of my dear friends at chiropractor, Sean Dill, and I formed a group called the Alliance. And he was on the other side of the bay for me, but in our Bay Area, we had two chiropractic colleges, and we really wanted to help the students understand chiropractic better. So we held meetings. One month was in his office, 1 month was in my office. But what we did is we took Stevenson's freshman text, not the sophomore, junior, senior, the freshman text. We would assign a speaker from all over the country 5 pages to discuss in depth with our group. 5 pages, and they would speak for an hour or two. And if they were off topic, Sean and I would ask them to sit down and we would take over and lead the discussion because it is a discussion. But if you take it upon yourself, unless you're a loner, and someone, I guess somebody could do it. I couldn't do it. But if I'm not having discussions and exchanging ideas about those things that are written, back published in 1927, if we're not having an active discussion and now beginning to own the discussion, own the content, it becomes part of our DNA. So that when you wake up in the morning, you can start to spew as a natural thing your knowledge of chiropractic philosophy. Once that happens, I think you're on the road to mastery, but you're not a master. What I don't like to see is when students leave here after 14 quarters of study and think they're masters. They're not. They're not a master of the philosophy because that's a lifelong endeavor. It says so in the book. reading, studying chiropractic philosophy is a lifelong endeavor. So it's a lifelong endeavor. You're going to build your skills of analysis and adjusting over time. It takes repetition, time, repetition, emotional involvement if you truly want to be an owner of the craft. So you're not going to be a master for many, many years, if ever, but you're on the road to mastery. And I think if we could have that as our mindset, we'll start to reduce the confusion that we see all over the place. So what we can do is, yes, study the philosophy. Yes, encourage people, invite them to come to maybe these little groups like I had with Sean in our office, and invite them to come to our lyceum. If you're a prospective student, come visit us on campus. Come, we'll host you almost any day. We have quarterly events called Showcase Sherman Weekend, which are phenomenal events where we actually have students come with their guests. They can bring their parents, their spouses, their partners, whatever they want, and we entrench them into our culture because we have a culture here, and it's a unique culture. Because you've been here, but people say when they walk on this campus, there's a feel to it. And you can't really describe it. You can sense it, but you can't describe it. And when I first got here, they used to call this the Sherman family, and I said, we can't use the word family because families are normally what?
Dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional, exactly. I said I don't want to be dysfunctional. So I said let's use the term Sherman community where we commune together and we don't always get along. Trust me, even within this little utopia that we have here in Spartanburg, we don't always get along. But at the end, we agree on one thing, and that is what is chiropractic.
Yes.
And if we could do that as a profession, I think that we would solve some of this confusion, some of this infighting that we have. There are movements in chiropractic that people can join to entrench themselves in what chiropractic truly is. And as you know, this is Chiropractic Freedom Coalition, which has as its purpose three really, I think, important objectives. One is to remove ourselves from this cartel type mindset that we see in chiropractic, where certain groups are controlling what chiropractic is. Chiropractic is chiropractic. We shouldn't have to have a control over that. The other part is about how do we determine if a student graduates competent and safe. And I think that you and I both agree that that's a responsibility of the colleges to determine is this student. The truth is this, David, we have students who start with us in the first quarter who don't make it all the way to the end. And either because they dropped out or because we said, you know what, you just don't have what it takes. We have standards. And so if you're not meeting the standards, then you either have to have remediation or possibly dismissal. Fortunately for us, we're very selective on who we take. So we have a very high retention rate and we have a very high graduation rate. So we assure that when someone leaves our campus, they are chiropractically competent. I don't know if they're medically competent, but they're chiropractically competent, and they're safe because if they weren't, we wouldn't let them graduate. So that's a second kind of thing that we want to do with this Chiropractic Freedom Coalition, and the third is we want to make sure that chiropractic remains drug free. And those three criteria for the coalition, I think, will assure the profession that it remains chiropractic in its true essence. So that's one thing. But then again, you have your personal decision. You make your decisions as to who you want to be and what you want to be. And unless you have the information, which I believe at Sherman we provide you with, unless you have the information to make a great decision, and that is, am I going to be a chiropractor or something else? Then if you don't know, you'll probably end up being something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't call yourself a chiropractor.
This was an incredible answer because as chiropractic, this is how we think as chiropractors inside out. Jack started with the problem is there's confusion in chiropractic and we need to start with ourselves to get clarity. And I want to make a comment on the Chiropractic Coalition because I'm an active member, also the leader of a team there. The Chiropractic Coalition, I believe, is the greatest revolutionary movement to freedom in chiropractic right now. So if you're interested in finding out more, you can send me a personal message. You can contact Jack and we'll be happy to help you understand more how you can get involved, how you can donate. But I believe it is the greatest modern movement on freedom in chiropractic education and
Yeah.
freedom for all we do. So Jack, I'm going to give you the last word here.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to say to listeners? We have listeners from all over the world. This is subtitled in Spanish, so you have all Latin America, you have people from Europe, the United States. anything you want to share to close out the call?
Uh, First of all, thank you for this opportunity just to have our discussion.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to be in your presence. Um, if you're going to commit to anything, commit to it. But you can't commit to something that you don't know about. And so I would encourage anybody who thinks they're a master at chiropractic and its philosophy, its science, and its art. I'm sorry, you're just not. You're on the road to mastery, but you're not. So my recommendation is plug into whatever you can to increase your knowledge, your inspiration, your motivation, and your passion for helping another human being become a better version of themselves. And the way you do that is when you become certain. And certainty comes from lots and lots of repetition, lots and lots of reading, lots and lots of studying, but also who do you surround yourself with? Find those people who are like-minded, but who will challenge you. Because going unchallenged is, you'll become stagnant. Surround yourself with people who are like you, but who will challenge you to elevate you to be a better version of yourself. And the other thing is for chiropractors to get yourself checked regularly. How many of us are taking care of people but not taking care of ourselves? I get checked every week. I go to our chiropractic center. I have an intern check me. Then I have someone who takes care of my upper cervical through Atlas Orthogonal. So I want to make sure if I'm going to serve this campus and therefore the profession, I better be in alignment myself. I better have a clear nerve system. And if I don't, I've got 400 students here that might help me. I've got 100 people on faculty. So thankfully, I have the people who I can rely on. But just be certain of who you are and what you stand for. And above all things, this is the most important thing. Above all things, be kind. Be kind to one another, be kind to yourself, but be kind to one another. Because the world is looking for people of kindness to help. Because if we don't have kindness, I don't know where we're going to end up. I'm afraid in some cases when I see what goes on in this world, but be the best chiropractor you can. And that takes studying, that takes diligence, it takes discipline, but have a kind heart and a servant's heart.
Thank you, Jack. I want to live in a world where every chiropractic college is communicating, thinking, and being as Jack Bourla. That would be the world I want to live in. To have chiropractic colleges all over the place with presidents like Jack Bourla. So thank you. Subscribe to my channel, share this video with everyone you know, and let's bring chiropractic to the world at a level that's never been seen before. Jack, thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you at Lyceum in person. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, David.